My name's Brian, and welcome back to Desert Theory. Well, tonight's gonna be cool. We have our friend Seth Anderson. He's coming out. He's gonna help us roll in some new main bearings on this motor, and he's also gonna help us change out the rod bearings. Let's get going. Okay, so last week we told you we were gonna have our friend Seth out to help us put the motor back together. So what we've talked him into doing, he doesn't really want to, is rolling the main bearings in. So we're not gonna take it all the way apart. We're gonna kind of do the fix that it needs for this race and then go through the motor with him later this winter. So we've done that now. We have the plastic gauge in there. So we took it apart, rolled the new bearings in, brought everything to tight, and now we're gonna pull this apart and kind of look at the plastic gauge and see what it's telling us as far as clearances in the motor. So to make things a little more entertaining, Seth also mentioned that he is a little nervous about our crank being bent, maybe from pre-detonation. So if Kelly and I seem a little nervous right now and aren't talking a whole lot, that probably has something to do with that.
I think that smell you like is the smell of money.
It is. This motor smells expensive.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea.
That's bad.
Yeah.
So what's that do? Because you could damage this.
You
or
damage that surface and that surface, and the cap won't sit down all the way. More likely.
So always work from the outside.
Yeah, that's bad juju to. I mean,
Yep.
I can't say that I've never done it, but I think your crank's probably okay.
Because if it was bent, that would be just
tight.
pancaked.
Yep.
They're pretty close from the naked eye. Okay, and then this guy was this operation.
So what Seth just said there was, after seeing the plastic gauge, he thinks that it's fine. They're both about the same, so both these red are spread about the same distance apart.
Yeah, the cap was going on there and kind of rocking, he said. So we're not out of the woods yet, but we're just kind of. Do you want me to leave this one on?
No, you can take it off. So we guess it's probably about 2.5.
That's 2.
That well, see, it's not quite all the way out there.
Mm-hmm. And then, but it's wider
It's
than
wider
3.
than 3. So
You wanted at least 2.5.
yeah, well, I mean it's run.
And this is
This is right.
this is a ruler. He's used to using like calipers and
See, this was-
bore gauges.
That's closer to 3. That's over 3 by a little bit.
And you were thinking 2.5 to 3.
2.5 to 3.5.
You want to take this wax off, Brian, because you could spin the main. So you said the rod bearings are more difficult than
No,
this?
they're easy.
Oh, they're easier. Okay.
Yeah, we did the hard part. And I just pull, and this, you have to set the thrust on this, so we'll go back to that one. I just kind of snug it. And snug it.
You're just going about the same,
Yeah.
just to get everything kind of down. You put oil on the crank.
Yep. So now
And
get
then
your
just
sealer.
dab.
Where you, yeah, you just put a little bit right there at the part lines. There, not on the seal.
Just
Just
back here.
Just on that surface there and that surface
Should I
there.
use a tool or just use my finger?
No, just use your finger.
Like a dot, kind of?
I smeared it around. Yeah, that's,
Plenty?
yeah.
Oh,
Ooh, I
okay.
got it on the seal.
Seth, you just told me not to do that.
Yeah, I did.
So he could.
It won't matter. Lots of guys do that.
Okay.
So right now, Seth is not trying to figure out how to get us hired as apprentices. But that could change, I'm sure. Right, Seth?
Sure. And remember, your bolts are ground for cam clearance.
Yes. Yeah, don't mix those up. You could feel on the backside of the
Right.
rod.
So you should be able to get a good idea what the torque spec's going to be. Where did the little...
This is at 45.
So this is the same thing. You're technically not supposed to tighten those up, but you don't want to roll that dowel pin over in the rod. So it's the same thing. You got to be gently torque those. Make sure that.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
So what we did on this for the rod bearings is the same. We rolled those in, we did the plastic gauge, tightened it down, and now we're going to take that off, see what the plastic gauge looks like. If it looks good, then we'll go ahead and tighten that up.
But here's the deal when you're doing, because this isn't solid, right? That rod wants to turn. So what happens when you put something in a hole and you turn it, it's going to lift off of the front. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a good idea. That's why I don't like plastic gauge. I think if you were to spend a bunch of time and try and put feeler gauges in there to hold the rod so it can't twist while you torque it, you would get a more accurate reading. But
I hear you.
But we're just, I mean.
Yep, I totally get it.
So what all that meant right there is Seth doesn't love the way we're doing this and the way he's having to help us with just doing this in the car and not actually doing a full rebuild. But he's working with us in our budget. So thank you, Seth.
Better?
Better.
Close enough.
I would monitor that on every one of those that you torqued. I don't know if they're all that way. See, look at this. This one's not lined up. Did we loosen that one already, though? Yeah, that one's loose.
Yeah, it's loose.
Okay.
That feels pretty good.
Yeah.
You just want to explain, Kelly, what Seth and you were talking about right there?
So the rod bolts come through the backside of the top end of the rod here, and they're ground on one side for cam clearance. So the camshaft runs down in the middle of the motor. So as a rotating mass comes around, that could interfere with the camshaft. So they're clearance. So we got to make sure that the ground is flat, is lined up again.
I'm sure you showed it off in time.
Might have. What do they call that? Like when you're diverted tragedy. We didn't hurt it, so that's cool.
So what Seth and Kelly are talking about right there is these bearings. In the oil filter we found the flakes. Well, you can really see where they're coming from here, and Seth is thinking that it's all early or pre-detonation that's causing this issue. Seth came out, helped us tonight, as you saw. What an awesome deal. Just so much knowledge. Just so many little things you do on a motor that we don't know. And we have a lot to learn. But Seth got those main bearings rolled out and all back together. And we got 2 of the rod bearings done. So we're going to get out of here tonight. Kelly and I are going to come back tomorrow on a Thursday like normal and just kind of get this, the rest of the rod bearings done and kind of get some of it back together, sealed up, ready to get going back in the car. So pretty excited for tomorrow, but we're getting out of here. Okay, it's Thursday. Kelly and I are back out here, just finishing up the first of 4 of the rod bearings that we're going to be doing tonight. Trying to remember everything that Seth told us to do and going through it. Pretty fun working on this. It's a little scary. It's definitely a little out of our comfort zone, but Seth definitely got us lined out on what we're supposed to do. So he didn't leave us a lot. It's almost like he doesn't trust us that much, but pretty awesome. Just again, that Seth came out here and gave his time to us and helped us out with this. So pretty cool. So on these, what Kelly's doing right here is he's just making sure that both of these are coming down even. He actually was able to push it most of the way on by hand. Seth told us that that's kind of you can do that because it's a rebuild. If we were doing that new, it'd be a little bit too tight. So now he's going to torque it. He's going to go part way here and stop. And then he'll go to the actual torque on the next round. Okay, so now we're just gonna break this loose. And we'll kind of walk you through this whole one right here.
Okay. There we go. See that movement?
Mm-hmm.
So those little dowel pins that you don't want to damage. So there's no bearing on this. The bearing's actually stuck to the crank there. And then so this is the bearing. And here, let's see. So let's take this guy, give ourselves a little room. There we go. So very carefully on this little tang, we don't touch the crank. It's this little tang right here. We're just gonna pull up on it. That one's gone. So they're not supposed to have copper on them like that. That one's pretty much done. Past its, this is what a new one looks like. Nice bearing surface.
Yeah, so there's really a huge difference.
Okay, so it's gonna go like this. So I'm just gonna line up this little notch if anybody's interested. That little notch kind of is what keeps the bearing from spinning. So that goes into a little notch on the rod. Just like that.
Sweet.
Good. That lines up. This is where you want to get those alignment dowels. You don't want to damage those, so you want to try to do this by hand if you can.
He's trying to get his head in the way.
Yeah, sorry. I think they're started. They look like they are, yeah. Okay, and this is the cam side. One of the clearance bolts.
Yeah.
So they grind this so that it doesn't hit the cam. You can see the cam down in there. The crank has enough throw that it gets really close to the cam.
Again, Kelly's just making sure that's dropping down on there flat to where it doesn't mess up those alignment dowels, and we're just being extra careful, and it's the same thing. It's just how you build motors, is extra careful.
Very careful. Very careful.
So this motor had a bunch of work done to it, 250 miles ago, but we don't know if it's because it was sitting, because the oil pressure got a little low, because of whatever. It just looks a little rough on these bearings.
It's kind of like what Seth, the engine builder, said. He's like, you really don't know, what the motor went through. So you don't know what was done. I have some records, but you just don't really know. So it's like, now you're going to start with, at least that's good. And this fall or winter, we'd like to do the heads and make sure everything's good. And then we have a good spot that we know, okay, this is all done. And we can put race miles on it and see how it wears.
This is a V6 motor, but it's more motor than either of us have ever raced with. So driving the car, the thing I had to get used to the most, even knowing we had an issue and trying to be easy on it, still was throttle control. We, during the qualifying, I was all over the place and got my foot in it too much, and there's a lot of power. So going from a 4-cylinder or just some heavier cars and less motor, this is awesome.
I mean, it's almost 500 horsepower out of a V6. So it's an impressive race motor. And our other cars have had maybe 2.25 horsepower. So we're double the horsepower for sure. So it is a different driving style. Like Brian said, traction control, this thing will just light the tires up. If you get into it and it's soft dirt or sand, it's just crazy.
We got the oil pan on. We got all the main bearings and the rod bearings changed out. It's been a super successful night. We're putting stuff back together. It feels great. Can't wait to get this thing on the road again. Get it running and get it ready for Zach Johnson and the next race we're going to. So super pumped. Just been a great night. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging around with us. Thanks for sticking with us while we were learning how to work on this motor. So excited for this winter when we get to tear it all the way down and go through it all. But Kelly and I both feel real confident about what we're looking at as far as getting through another race. So pretty excited. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.